expectations in the midst of a fight for its own survival.
Our club is burning to the ground as we speak.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and in a new podcast, Making of a Moment, the RSL story, we take a closer look at one of those iconic sports moments.
Soccer is a crazy game, and we saw it firsthand tonight.
And unravel how knowing the truth of these moments can transform what they mean.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now. Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Emergency traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Well, the good news is traffic is moving once again on southbound I-15 at the bottom end of Linden, where we believe it had been stopped to clear some debris from the roadway. The bad news is we still have about a mile, maybe a little more, of residual delays stretching back to Pleasant Grove Boulevard. These should clear out within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Create your floral sanctuary with Olson's Greenhouse. Locally grown premium quality flowers to complement porches, patios, and containers. Don't miss Olson's Container Fest, Saturday, April 26th at all Home Depots. Details at ogg.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cloudy today and over the next couple days, but very mild temperatures. Today's high is expected to hit 64 degrees and keep climbing throughout the week. Thursday through Saturday, temps will get into the 70s. Right now, it's mostly cloudy and 48 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people are expected to visit the Vatican to pay their respects for Pope Francis, who passed away at the age of 88. The Pope's legacy wasn't just a spiritual one, it was also a political one. He often spoke up against U.S. presidents, encouraging them to be more charitable, loving, and peaceful. Welcome, everyone, to Inside Sources. I'm your host, Adam Gardner, and I'm here with Emily Lockhart, guest hosting today. Emily Lockhart is amazing. She's a former Senate candidate. She's done a lot of work up on Capitol Hill, kind of a political dynasty in her family. And she is also, in her real life, like an executive vice president of a large manufacturing company. So she has the business and political experience. I only have half of those things. We're really grateful that you're here, Emily, and you picked a great day to show up. There's a lot of things that have happened.
Yeah, Adam, thanks so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here and feel very lucky to be with you today. There has been a lot going on. Obviously the Pope's passing is major news. I actually had the opportunity a few years ago to be at the Vatican, and he came to the window and gave a speech to everybody, and I saw the love that the people had for him and how engaged they were as he was speaking to them and teaching them lessons that he wanted them to know about charity and helping the poor and things. So it's just a big day for them to have lost such a major person in their lives, but it was cool.
Super jealous that you were able to have the opportunity. I would love to do that. I would love to go see the Vatican, and to actually hear the Pope speak is pretty cool. Very unique. How awesome. We also wanted to get a Utahns perspective of the legacy, mostly the political legacy of Pope Francis's time in office. And we would like to welcome Kyle Palmer, Utah Catholic and principal at Irish Elk LLC. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
Okay, you can tell you are a Catholic by the name of your company, Irish Elk, which I can appreciate.
A little bit of a tie to Notre Dame for those that know me as well. A bit of an enthusiast there would be an understatement. Thanks.
Kyle, a lot of what I know about Catholicism and just kind of the political outlays that come from the Catholic Church, come from Rome, I know from you and just you teaching me and others about kind of the legacy of the Catholic Church and its impact here, especially in the state of Utah. I want to start off by playing a clip from ABC's Jim Ryan, where he talked to ABC News radio affiliate WDBO about the Pope's legacy, and get your reaction.
He's sort of moved the church to the left, an attempt either intentionally or unintentionally to bring more people in under this big tent. 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide, but the numbers have been dwindling. Yes, Pope Francis reached out to the disenfranchised, to refugees, to even the LGBTQ community.
Is that an accurate statement, Kyle? Did the Pope move the church to the left?
So I think it's really a matter of perception and openness, Adam. What I think is that doctrinally nothing really changed. I'm not aware of anything where the Pope actually did cause for a doctrinal shift in church teaching that's lasted 2,000 years, has been forged by the doctors of the church along those 2 millennia. But really it's a matter of how we approach people, how we are open to those that are in the marginalized communities, the poor, otherwise. Those that feel as though they've not been welcome in the church for a very long time, to try and bring them in. That was often perceived as a shift to the left, but it was a frustration just adding to the political dialogue with all this that, I would hear of some quote that the Pope had mentioned. There's a famous interview right when he began. There was a quote on a plane to a reporter that talked about, who am I to judge, and trying to welcome those that are part of the LGBTQ community or those that are atheists, into the faith to try and see what we believe. But it was interesting with that. There's no ground shift as far as actual doctrine goes. The statement was taken out of context by the New York Times as though it was some massive ground shift.
That does really not sound like the New York Times, Kyle.
No, I've never heard that before. Yeah,
context.
All the news that fits print. That's right. So.
Okay, so talk about the Pope's legacy in the state of Utah. It seemed like you had a kind of, I don't want to use the term hardline, but for lack of a better term, the previous Pope, Pope Benedict, had more of a hardline stance, and Pope Francis was much more open and inclusive.ดyou see any of that shift in the state of Utah?
Yes, I'll say that I did. In remarking on Benedict XVI, he was a traditionalist. He wanted to bring forth a lot of the traditions that had even faded away in the Catholic Church under John Paul II. So he brought those to the fore and really focused on the doctrine. And it was one of those, what we're going to be immovable in our beliefs. And if we lose people, we lose people because we're going to stay who we are. And I do think that's important, to stay where you are in your beliefs and be grounded. But with Francis, it was very much a, yes, we believe, but we want others to come in and join us, right? And we want to be a part of that as well. The LDS Church, of course, here in the state of Utah, I know they've had different audiences with Pope Francis and his predecessors over the years. And I think that's very special. Truthfully, for me, what I think is amazing that Francis pulled off, he wasn't ever going for a level of celebrity, but he achieved it. And those friends that are outside of my faith in the state of Utah, they understand more. They want to learn more about the Catholic faith because of Francis. And I have noticed that shift over the course of his papacy.
And he was really well known for kind of how he shifted the Vatican itself, not necessarily the church as a whole around the world, but he appointed more women to high-ranking Vatican positions, such as prefects, undersecretaries, roles previously that were reserved for men. He did a complete overhaul of the Vatican finances with new transparency rules, competitive bidding, caps on gifts. Do you think these were good things for the Catholic Church to begin the process?
I do. I really do, Adam. That's a great question. I think that it's really about how we govern ourselves. And, there's always going to be a level of mystique around any given religion. He's trying to bring that to the fore and say, in this modern age, we need to be more transparent. And even one of the items that you didn't mention but might have been implied is truly with regard to child sex abuse cases, that we're going to have a zero-tolerance policy for that. We're going to handle these things very quickly. We're not going to, handle them slowly or let things, have a slow burn to them. But we want to handle these things properly, quickly, and make sure we're addressing the needs of the people that the church should serve. So, yes,
and it seems like it's been kept out of the news a lot more. Like we haven't heard a big news story for years about that type of scandal in the Catholic Church. So it seems like it was working.
It has, and I also think there's all sorts of stories and books that you'll read on this. Even as that was coming to the foreground of the news cycles, those cases had happened decades before, right? Yes, there were some that were happening at that point, but the church had taken some steps to be more proactive with it and to try and deal with these things internally. What Francis is really bring it to the sunlight for everyone to see. These are the changes that we're making. There was a Cardinal McCarrick over D.C. He had been found to have partaken in some of these issues, and he was defrocked. He was excommunicated from his role there. So there's all sorts of things that have been done proactively to deal with these issues by Francis that really had not been seen before him.
That was Kyle Palmer, Utah Catholic and principal at Irish Elk LLC. The Utah political circles know him as the fundraising guru for all people political. Kyle, thanks so much for joining the show. We really appreciate it. Next on Inside Sources, markets on Wall Street open lower this morning as fears continue to spread and grow about the effects of President Trump's tariffs. Let's take a look at how China is responding to the whole thing and the pressure they're putting on neighboring countries who are looking to make a deal with the U.S. Stay with us.
Do you need new windows? Look, all glass pretty much looks the same to the naked eye, but if your windows aren't triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane glass, the cold is seeping in. You need to call Advanced Window Products. They use the highest quality glass and premium vinyl to create state-of-the-art windows and frames, and for 38 years, they build those frames right here in Utah. Custom crafted for Utah's climate. The best windows you can buy at prices 30 and 40% less than what the big companies charge because they cut out the middleman. They're the factory. They even give you a lifetime warranty, and right now as we head into spring, save an extra $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Custom windows that'll give your house a fresh new look and save you money on your heating and air conditioning. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, even buy now, pay later, and an extra $2,500 off. Call for a quote, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Are they promising you up to 10% growth per year guaranteed for your retirement income? If not, you need a new financial advisor. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hard-working folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 up front or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't work when you're supposed to be retired. And if any financial advisor tells you it's too good to be true, they simply don't have the options we do. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Dave and Debbie. It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio. KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
President Trump's tariffs have contributed to a volatile global stock market, and foreign countries have been clamoring to meet with the president to negotiate tariffs and new trade deals. However, China is notably not seeking negotiations right now. The country is exerting pressure on neighboring Asian countries, warning them of retribution if they make deals with the United States that could put Beijing at a disadvantage.
I'm really excited to talk to our next guest to get more, more in depth on this subject. It's not something I'm super familiar with. We have Dr. Anna Pechenkina, Associate Professor of Political Science at Utah State University. Dr. Pechenkina, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Am I getting your name correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I want to get your take on the situation. Is this something that is kind of foreseen, and as a political scientist, you understand what's going to happen next? We have some historical context, or is this entire situation is everyone just kind of flying by the seat of their pants? Is this all new, and you're just trying to react and see what's going on?
It's not very new because we saw the preamble to the current situation during the first Trump administration. And in fact, when those 20% tariffs were imposed, China took a lot of wise steps in order to not lower its dependence on the United States. So in that sense, what we're seeing is something that, of course, we saw a short preview, but I will tell you that the situation is perplexing. And from the political science standpoint, what I think a lot of my colleagues don't, and I include myself, what we don't understand is why the U.S. administration, not using its main weapon, and that is its allies. If indeed pursuing a trade war with China is the objective here, there is a way to make this much less painful on the American consumers and much more painful on China. And the way to do that is to create, to roll out these tariffs very slowly, to allow all of our firms to readjust, and to make sure that we have as much free trade with Europe, with our partners in Canada and Mexico, with our partners in East Asia as possible in order to isolate China, if that's really the objective. Right now, it's really China who is pursuing that smart policy of trying to leverage some countries that are dependent on it. So that, I think, is what's so perplexing, and that's the new element. I did not expect that the Trump administration would completely forgo all the international alliances that the U.S. has built over many decades.
Well, 10 years ago, if I'm remembering correctly, we had negotiated by the U.S. government with our allies, especially in Asia. We had the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
That's right, we did.
And both candidates at the time, Trump and Hillary Clinton, both said, we hate the TPP. It's going to go away if I'm president. So we never got to implement that. Is that the strategy that you're talking about, coalescing our allies around China?
That's right. The TPP, yes. Thank you for bringing this up. That was a very sad moment because that agreement indeed excluded China, but created a free or a freer trade environment between the U.S. and its allies in East Asia. Indeed, it was very unfortunate that both candidates wanted to jettison it. And I think the smart play was perhaps, and I understand that there's a popular demand, kind of the reaction to a lot of deindustrialization. But the truth is that leaders have to educate the public that a lot of manufacturing jobs will not come back. They look very differently, right? You need a lot more education for all these automated factories. So kind of a lot of rhetoric from leaders, and it's really, you're right, that it was from both sides, that Clinton, as the candidate from the Democrat Party, also was against it. So we need to re-educate the public that today's manufacturing jobs look very differently. And in order to isolate China, we need to cooperate with our allies and roll out tariffs extremely slowly and not impose them in one big swoop.
And the U.S. government, I find this interesting, and I'd love to get your perspective on this. The U.S. government exempted certain industries from those tariffs. So Apple, who is making our iPhones and iPads, they are exempted from these high tariffs. We have a lot of pharmaceuticals. They're exempted from these high tariffs. NVIDIA, chip manufacturing, they're also exempted from these tariffs. So it seems like those are the industries that we would actually want in the United States because they're higher paying, they're a bigger part of our supply chain. So if we're focused on all these other industries, it seems like what the president is saying, our official position is we want the companies that make our clothing, backpacks, smaller devices. Is that what the government is saying? Why would if our intention is really to punish China, why would we exempt so many industries?
That is a very good question. And I think that's why you see so much economic commentary these days that basically says that if you impose tariffs this high, what this breeds is just corruption. Because that means that the executive branch has all the privilege in the world to to grant these exemptions to its to companies that offer whatever, right? And so you can see how there all these exceptions that you've already enumerated. I wasn't even familiar with all of them. So it clearly violates the spirit of what they're trying to do here. And you're right that another thing that happened during Trump administration that also surprised me is that they rolled back the investments that the Biden administration made in the small chip manufacturing and solar panel manufacturing in the United States. So those are two very important industries, especially if we want to reduce our dependency on China, and that's also a surprising move. So I don't have a good answer to you, but I'm sharing in being perplexed by all these moves. Yes.
Well, that makes two of us. The Chinese Commerce Ministry said the following: China firmly opposes any party reaching a deal at the expense of China's interests. If that happens, China will never accept it and will resolutely take countermeasures in a reciprocal manner. We've talked about this statement before. If you are Japan or South Korea or Taiwan, what are you supposed to do? Is there a real threat to any type of military response?
I don't anticipate any military response, but I do think all of our allies that you've enumerated realize that China has an ability to wait much longer than any U.S. administration. So in that sense, it is a war, this trade war with China, that the U.S. could only win if it coalesced all of its allies together and did not try to antagonize all of our allies. But the policy that has been rolled out is that it really appears to be lacking for strategic thinking here. So for these countries, I expect that they're we're not talking about military action on the table, but it is surprising to them, I believe, to see the United States that is aggressively pushing against them as opposed to trying to court them.
And yeah, they're aggressively pushing back against China, but they're also aggressively pushing back against Japan, against South Korea, against Taiwan. And you've even had, and I understand where the United States government is coming from, because during the first Trump administration, they said, hey, we need to put these tariffs on China. So a lot of companies, and even Chinese companies, moved their headquarters to Cambodia and Vietnam and other countries. And so the Trump administration now is saying we need to kind of head that off at the pass, and we can't allow them to do that. But do you think that in our last 10, 15 seconds, do you think the pendulum is swinging too far the other way?
It seems to me that the administration has gone too far, and I really hope that they will see that the correct strategy here is to ensure that the tariffs on our allies are removed or as low as possible. It is true that Chinese companies are expanding, but I think the 30,000-foot view here is that we want economic interdependence in the world, because one of the main findings from political science is that economic interdependence actually does reduce military conflict. So in that sense, there is this untold, big, important story of free trade as a peacemaker. And I think a lot of the focus, especially in the United States domestic political process, has overlooked that the incredible achievement that international trade has brought to all of us.
Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. I could talk to you for hours. Dr. Anna Pechakina, Associate Professor of Political Science at Utah State University. Thanks so much for joining the show. When Inside Sources returns, we are going to go in depth on a new op-ed piece in Politico from a former top Pentagon spokesperson who says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is contributing to continued chaos and dysfunction in the Pentagon. That's coming up next.
It's 1:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour: a standoff in Farmington turned deadly after a man allegedly held a woman at gunpoint. Police say they responded to a report of a man holding a gun to a woman's head in a Farmington neighborhood near Lupine Way and Foxglove Road overnight. Farmington officers say they found the man and woman outside and asked him to drop his weapon. One officer fired his gun after the man reportedly refused to put down his weapon. The suspect died on the scene. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Vatican press office has issued Pope Francis's will. The pontiff had previously expressed his desire to be buried in the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major, but now they're learning more about the Pope's last wishes.
He wants the tomb, his tomb, to be not extravagant and excessive. He said that the tomb must be in the earth, simple, without particular decoration, and with only the inscription Franciscus or Francis. And his will ends with the suffering that has become present in the last part of my life. I have offered to the Lord for peace in the world and brotherhood among peoples.
ABC's Marcus Moore reporting. Your money at this moment, a deep nosedive. The Dow is off 1,144 points. The S&P is off 157 points. The NASDAQ has lost 518 points. Coming up, we have a beautiful week ahead. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hey folks, it's Dave here with Deb, and we want to tell you about our friends at Mountain Home Services.
That's right, Dave. Mountain Home Services has been serving Utah since 1954, and they're the first to offer upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee.
You know, Deb, with summer around the corner, it's the perfect time to get your air conditioner checked. Mountain Home Services has got you covered with top-notch AC services.
Absolutely. And let's not forget their expert electrical and plumbing services. Whether you need a quick repair or a major installation, their skilled technicians are ready to help.
You can find them online at mountainhomeservices.com or call the same easy-to-remember number, 801-543-2222.
And there's a special offer for our KSL listeners. So call now and ask about their KSL specials.
Don't wait. Keep your home running smoothly with Mountain Home Services. Call 801-543-2222 today. That's 801-543-2222.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
Thinking about the future can be a lot. I just got my first job out of college. That means thinking about a car, building credit, and saving for emergencies. I'd rather be in the gym working on my gains. But with Cyprus Credit Union, all those worries fade away. Whether it's high-yield savings products or an auto loan once I'm ready to get a sweet new ride, Cyprus is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypruscu.com today.
Cyprus Credit Union, your future is our future.
Federally insured by the NCUA.
On the surface, it seemed like just another Cinderella story.
A team that was predicted to finish dead last is now waiting to play the first round of the playoffs.
But Real Salt Lake's 2021 playoff run was so much more than what happened on the pitch.
Our club is burning to the ground.
This is the tip of the iceberg. Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
We had an accident northbound I-15 just after the North Interchange in North Salt Lake. It had been blocking a left lane. That's been cleared, and we are back to a crash-free commute on the Valley freeways, delay-free as well. But if you see something happening in traffic, you can always send us your tip on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line at 57500. A bold new Madam Butterfly is downloading now, reimagined through a virtual reality lens where fantasy and heartbreak collide. Experience Madam Butterfly at Capitol Theater May 3rd through 11th. Madam Butterfly, Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's a beautiful week of spring weather. The high today is 64 degrees and sunny, and it'll just get a little bit warmer all throughout the week until we get to about 74 on Friday for our high. There are a couple of chances of some small spring showers Wednesday and Thursday. Right now it's 48 degrees and sunny. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Chaos and dysfunction at the Department of Defense. A new piece just out from a former Pentagon spokesperson outlines a culture of disarray and distractions from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. In his opinion piece published in Politico, former DoD public affairs official John Elliott writes that Hegseth's presence will become an issue for President Trump's administration and his plans for the future. It comes while a New York Times article discusses yet another instance of Hegseth using the app Signal to share sensitive military information with non-military folks. While attending the White House Easter egg roll this morning, Secretary Hegseth spoke to reporters about the latest op-ed piece.
That a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter.
Well, Adam, there's a lot to unpack with all of this, so let's get into it. What are your thoughts? What do you think about Secretary Hegseth?
Well, this is kind of interesting because there's a couple things that have happened right in a row. We first had very confidential, top secret war plans happening in real time when the U.S. government was carrying out a mission against the Houthis in Yemen. Then we have this in the New York Times article, another instance that they can corroborate where Hegseth is sharing, again on the app Signal, with his wife, his brother, and others that are not cleared to hear or see any of the information, the top secret information that he is sharing. He did hire his brother as an aide in the Pentagon, which is another scandal for him. And so these are all compounding, I think. This is the most interesting part from that clip that we just played where he said, anonymous sources from disgruntled employees. These are not anonymous. This was an op-ed from the former top Pentagon spokesman, and he details it in an opinion piece in Political called "The Month from Hell" inside the agency. And he says, so again, this is not anonymous at all. We know who this is. And he said these are disgruntled former employees. That may be true because he seems very disgruntled. So you have your top communications guy. You also have on leave your chief of staff, your deputy chief of staff. So I feel like this is kind of typical Trump fashion where we only hire the best people and then we fire a lot of them. And so I want to read just a little bit from this Politico opinion piece. It's been a month of total chaos at the Pentagon, from leaks of sensitive operational plans to mass firings. The dysfunction is now a major distraction for the president, who deserves better from senior leadership. Now, John Elliott is a longtime MAGA Trump guy. So he's not saying, let's go burn down the Trump administration. I think he's saying the opposite. He's saying we see the dysfunction in the Pentagon. I know if you're going to try and change the culture of the Pentagon, it's going to be people are going to get mad. The old guard's going to get upset. That's not what this is. He's saying that Pete Hegseth is not a great leader, and you need to get rid of him, hire someone new, because President Trump deserves that kind of leadership in the Pentagon.
You know, Adam, here's the thing. I'm not a fierce defender of Pete Hegseth by any means, but disruption causes chaos by design. He is going into an entrenched Department of Defense that has been doing it the way that they've been doing it for a very, very long time. They can't even be audited. They've just gotten basically a free pass, and he's disrupting, which will cause chaos and turmoil. I think what he needs to do is, instead of the same old fake news media, please don't hold me accountable, he needs to take ownership of the decisions he's making, say he's sorry when he's sorry, but continue to cause a little bit of chaos and disruption into a system that desperately needs it.
I think that's a great point. I think that's what he's trying to argue is, you know what? I don't care what the news media says about me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to apologize for it. You had an exclusive from NPR saying the White House is looking to replace Pete Hegseth as defense secretary. Caroline Leavitt is saying on X, this NPR story is total fake news based on one anonymous source who clearly has no idea what they are talking about. As the president said this morning, he stands strongly behind Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. So it seems like the floodgates open when one of these articles come out. You're going to have 50, and everyone wants to get on the story. So Politico had all of the news hits yesterday night. And so, of course, you're going to have the next NPR trying to get a scoop and Fox News trying to get a scoop and NBC. So that's kind of what we've come to expect with all these things. I do think it's very interesting that they're all hitting Pete Hegseth at the same time, and this is not the first time. When you talk about the Signal chat from a couple of months ago, we were first on that after the Atlantic article came out on Inside Sources. And that was a big deal, but I don't blame Pete Hegseth necessarily for that. It was a stupid place to share top secret information. We have other technology sources for them to do that. So it was a dumb place for him to share that information, but it also wasn't him that added anybody to the chat. That was Mike Walls, National Security Advisor. So that's his fault. And he was totally exonerated by the president. He said he's totally fine. He has my confidence. He's not going anywhere. And that was true. The problem is Pete Hegseth that same day came on and said, we did not share anything top secret. That is a complete lie.
Yeah, and to that point, that's why I'm saying, like, the secretary needs to come out and own his mistakes, right? I'm not going to defend him for the stupidity of his choices. But what I do believe is important is that we have a disruptor. We have someone who's coming in who President Trump has asked to go shake things up and to right wrongs and to make sure that our Defense Department is sound and strong and defending our borders and defending the prosperity of Americans. So I think that he can do that without putting battle plans onto Signal. And frankly, I'm disappointed that that's not an obvious to him and the people that work for him. My goodness. I would never put my mom group chat out on the world either, like the things we talk about between us moms aren't going out there, and that's not national security by any means. So again, I'm not a fierce defender of him. He's got to own his mistakes, but we just need to have more transparency. And instead of calling everybody fake news, why don't you just own up to the things that you do? Next on Inside Sources, more discoveries today dealing with inappropriate management of sensitive government documents, including White House floor plans. But it's not just a Trump presidency thing. It was happening under President Biden, too. Our conversation on how the administrations are handling sensitive information continues after the break.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and there's a good chance you've heard me talking about our free furnace sale. The one where you buy a new air conditioner and we give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it, about $400. Well, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. The main reason we do this sale is to give you an incentive to help us keep our guys busy when the weather's mild. And thanks to your help, we're able to keep our guys and keep growing. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, you owe it to yourself to at least schedule a free estimate and get all the details about our free furnace sale. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hey, get in. What? Who are you? I'm future you. Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Yeah. Mia, our doctor figured it out. She said it's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Hey, it's Brian with Olson's Greenhouse. In today's busy world, your home should be your sanctuary, a peaceful retreat where you can unwind, breathe deeply, and recharge. And what better way to create that haven than with flowers? A pop of color in your flower beds, a cheerful container garden by the front door, or a lush patio filled with vibrant blooms can transform any space into a personal oasis. Flowers don't just brighten up your home, they lift your spirits too. Research even shows that surrounding yourself with plants can reduce stress and boost happiness. At Olson's Greenhouse, we grow premium quality plants that make it easy to bring beauty and joy into your life. Whether you prefer bold, eye-catching colors or soft, soothing pastels, we have the perfect flowers to complement your space. And with locally grown plants, you know they're ready to thrive. This spring, create a sanctuary of color and comfort with flowers from Olson's Greenhouse. Find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens or go to ogg.com to find a retailer near you. That's ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Way back in 1989, I started servicing hot tubs in Park City, and I learned the hard way in the freezing winter in the mountains that hot tubs are not built for Utah's harsh climate. I then found the Arctic Spa, the most northern manufacturer of hot tubs built specifically for the northern climates. Arctic Spas use perimeter insulation similar to your house where the outside walls are insulated. This allows us to utilize the excess heat from the motors to help heat the water and reduce your electric cost each month. Since then, we have sold 10,000 Arctic Spas here in Utah. We've learned that Arctic Spas last longer because they are built stronger. You can just feel the difference. Arctic Spas are easier to fix because we put access panels all the way around the spa, which makes it less expensive for you. Add this to the lower electric bills each month, and you end up with the least expensive hot tub to own over the long term. Arctic Spas with stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George, or online at arcticspasutah.com. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Sloppy handling of sensitive documents has become all too commonplace among the last two administrations. The latest instance involves a Google Drive folder which contained documents like White House floor plans being inadvertently shared among employees who weren't supposed to have access. We've talked about sharing of sensitive information on Signal, documents taken by President Trump when he left office, and a special counsel report last year that found how President Biden carelessly kept classified documents and notebooks at his home. If you remember, he famously did it next to his Porsche that he had to brag about as well. In this day and age, how have we gotten to this point where there's such disregard for protecting sensitive and classified government information? Emily, what's your take?
Honestly, Adam, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, wow, if I don't file my taxes, I can get sent to federal prison. But apparently we can share the White House floor plans with bunker information and there's no consequence. I mean, give me a break. The American people are sick and tired of the government getting away with crazy and then coming after me, Main Street America, and demanding that I pay up so we can send our money to foreign countries. It is the hypocrisy and just the audacity of the federal government blows my mind.
And it's interesting because since we do pay our taxes.
I do. Yes, I just did last week.
They actually have the money and have the technology to share these things securely, and they're not doing it.
Yeah, great point. I mean, Google, come on. I guess they're on Google Drive folders, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, one of the largest companies in the world can somehow, take over the internet and drive change dramatically across the planet, but they can't give the United States federal government a unique product offering that gives, special securities and permissions to lock down the floor plans of the White House.
Do you think that's what it is? To me, here's how I read it. I feel like it's not like Google came to the White House or the White House went to Google and said, hey, you guys are incredible at this. Give us some options. Do you have an off-the-shelf product? Can you build something custom for us? It seems like they just didn't bother with that at all. They were like, this is easy, and we know that we have it connected to our emails. So let's just set it up in Google Drive.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of product offerings, right? They could have gone with Outlook and Microsoft, but they went with Google. And when having those negotiations at a contract level, they 100% should have said, we need additional securities on these types of documents.
So you're saying you think they went out for bid on it? They went and talked?
They should have. Companies. I mean, every single public dollar should have a bid on it, right? Like any vendor coming to the United States of America and saying, I want to provide you a service, should be bidding for our dollar.
So I feel like let's take the Signal example. Even though Signal does have paid for services that governments can use, that companies can use, that are much more encrypted or offer different features. It's a free app in the App Store. So they were like, hey, this is just convenient. I can use it on my personal phone. The problem is you have people, this is saying that What we've just been talking about is that there are those staffers that should not have access to that information, but did. What's more concerning to me is you have governments like North Korea, Russia, Iran, China. They want this information, and it's pretty dang easy to get into the defense secretary's phone, a White House staffer's phone. When you take a job at the White House and in a lot of positions in Congress, you are given training of there are certain people that are going to approach you. And this is the type of information that they're going to want. They're going to want information on your phone. They're going to want access to your email, your Google Drive folder. I mean, this is what you're trained on. And it seems those at our highest level are just very sloppy in this. And even the programs that we have that the government pays a ton of money for that are for encrypted conversations and for top secret conversations, it seems to me like people are putting their passwords. You have to change them every 3 months or every month, and you can't remember what your last one was. So you write it on a Post-it note and you stick it right on your computer for all of your colleagues to see. I feel like that's the type of carelessness that we have. We're singling out the Trump administration because it's happening now, and they're in charge. And I don't like anybody that's ever in charge, so maybe that's a me problem. But I remember very famously when the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, was barely in office, and the Vice President has a residence in Washington, D.C. It's the old Naval Observatory. Beautiful property, huge. It's awesome. It's a great place. And President Biden was entertaining folks at the Naval Observatory, and he started talking to all of the guests who some are cleared to hear information, some are not. It was just his friends, government employees and their spouses, what have you. And he very famously kept saying, yeah, they're building a top secret bunker down below the Naval Observatory. So if there's ever a nuclear attack, that's where I'm going to go. And he was telling all of his guests, showing off to them, that this is where he's going to go if there's ever an attack on the United States, even though no one was supposed to know about the bunker.
Adam, I think you're making my point for me, because then later on, as we know, tens of millions of Americans voted for that man to become the president of the United States with the nuclear weapons, right? So it's like, what are the consequences for these politicians who so flippantly give away national security secrets and information and floor plans? But if I, Main Street America, don't pay my taxes, I'm going to end up in federal prison or with hefty fines that have interest on them. That is the hypocrisy that infuriates Main Street America and why we're seeing the political environment that we see today.
So you're saying, I mean, I totally accept that. I think you're spot on. It's like rules for me, but not for thee. And I think that's really frustrating. Donald Trump was in Mar-a-Lago, and he would spread top secret documents out on the table, and he was talking to reporters and showing them if they were ever to invade Iran, here's what it would look like. And he would say specifically, I'm not supposed to show you this, but it's okay. I'm the president. It's not top secret anymore if I say it's not. And then he was storing top secret documents in his bathroom. And so when the archives asked for those documents back, he famously said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have them. Told that to his attorneys. His attorneys said that to the archives department. We very clearly knew that he did have those documents. And then the attorney general did this big show of force. Let's go into Mar-a-Lago and take them. Then we remember kind of the same thing happened with Biden. Biden had top secret documents in his home, and Trump's own administration, his own attorney general's office said, we investigated it, and there's no way we could convict him because he's a senile old man and he really doesn't know how to answer questions. And
that is a much bigger problem.
That's
Adam.
A scarier problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mike Pence also had some top secret documents at his home. And when the archives said, hey, you have top secret documents, we want them. And he said, yep, take everything. Because he knew, like, I don't know if he knew or didn't know that he had something that was top secret, but he knew the consequences if he wasn't going to obey. The lucky thing for Donald Trump is he actually ended up winning the election. So all of this point is moot. So do you think, Emily, anything's going to change?
You know, I actually call upon the private sector to do better here. I think that we have fantastic, educated, top-notch software engineers and database engineers and really just the forefront of technology in this country who can help right these wrongs and give the United States of America the security that it needs. And I think Google should do a better job of providing a product offering custom to the United States that gives us the security so that none of us are concerned about floor plans or national security secrets or battle plans hitting Signal and then hitting our news desk.
I also want to know if these White House blueprints show where all the tunnels are, because I think that would be fantastic to see these things. I just get a picture of what it looks like in movies, and I'm sick of that. I want the real thing. Coming up on the second hour of Inside Sources, we're going to dig into local politics, including the latest court decision that says the Utah Fits All Scholarship is unconstitutional, plus how Utah's innovation blueprint can keep the United States ahead in the global tech race. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top story this hour. President Trump spoke briefly about the death of Pope Francis today. Details from ABC News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott at the White House.
He called Pope Francis a good man, saying that he worked hard. The president mentioning that he signed this executive order for the flag to be lowered to half staff, not only here at the White House, which has already happened, but also across the country. Earlier, the president posting on social media saying, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis. May God bless him and all those who loved him."
The president speaking at the White House Easter egg roll, accompanied by First Lady Melania. Father Martin Diaz is the pastor and rector of the Cathedral of the Madeleine in Salt Lake City, and he says the Pope has had a profound impact on many around the world.
Pope Francis put a mirror in front of all of us Catholics. Okay, what are you doing? Are you serving the poor? How are you serving the poor? But it's not just the physically poor. It's not just the homeless and the hungry and needing clothes. It's those who are poor because their hearts are broken.
Father Diaz says they rang the bells at the cathedral at noon, which is the same time that the Pope Francis was placed in his coffin in Rome. Taking a look at your money at this moment, markets taking back some of today's earlier losses. The Dow at one point had been down by 1,200. Looks like it's going to close down by 972 points, ending at 38,170. S&P down by 124 points. The NASDAQ down by nearly 3%, down 415 points. Get ready for some warm temperatures this week. We'll take a look at the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time 2:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave.
Oh, what a beautiful day.
This is regular deodorant. Ugh, I can't. Secret Clinical with workout sweat. Let's run another marathon. And regular deodorant.
How much more?
Secret is the GOAT. Because nothing fights sweat better.
Stay fresher under pressure.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Got an app idea? You're sitting on a gold mine, but stuck on how to bring it to life? Meet Dev Simplify, your superheroes for web and mobile app creation. Dev DevSimplify.com. Just ask Coach Mike with Practice Planner Live.
You know, as a coach, technology isn't my strength, but DevSimplify took my idea for Practice Planner Live and turned it into the top practice planning platform on the market. They transformed my non-technical vision into an incredible web and mobile app that coaches like me now can't live without.
See, you don't need to be a tech wizard. Your idea plus DevSimplify's superhero software skills equals a big win. Right, Mike?
You know, I had big plans for my app, and with DevSimplify's help, it's now a thriving must-have platform for all coaches.
DevSimplify, turning your brilliant ideas into amazing web and mobile. No tech skills required. Visit DevSimplify.com and let the magic begin. DevSimplify.com.
It's true. Anyone can paint a room, a wall, a side of a house. It's also true that anyone can groom your pet.
Aw, poor thing. Is he sick?
Well, anyone can trim the trees. Anyone can coach.
Gina, throw it at the net thing.
It's Charlie, and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to kick the ball in soccer.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you always should. And when it comes to your home, not everyone can paint with character, integrity, and the knowledge that no one will ever do a better job. And that's who we are. I'm Adam with 5 Star Painting. New paint in your home takes that warm springtime feel to a whole new level. With 5starpainting.com, we offer hands-on management, and our partnership with Sherwin-Williams means we're painting with the industry's best materials. Trust our 20 years of experience, over 1,000 online beaming reviews, and our 2-year warranty that sets us apart from all the others. Remember, anyone can paint a room.
My masterpiece!
Oh, wow.
But the smart choice is 5 Star or nothing. 5starpainting.com.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Let's check in with Ricky Meese.
We've had some heavy and slow traffic southbound I-15. This is prior to 12th Street, Ogden, actually in the Marriott-Slaterville area near 4th North Pioneer Road. Not really sure what's causing those backups, but be aware of it. And then we also have an accident northbound I-15 in Murray after 4500 South. But it's completely out of traffic on the shoulder, so no delay. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We are starting out the week with temperatures in the mid to upper 60s and up to 70 degrees by Thursday. Looks like we do have a 30% chance of rain on Wednesday. Right now, 60 degrees downtown. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside Sources. I am your host, Adam Gardner, here with Emily Lockhart. State lawmakers are preparing their appeal today following last week's ruling by a Utah judge that the Utah Fits All Scholarship Program is unconstitutional. It's left a lot of questions for the thousands of children who were beneficiaries of the program. It's also sparked outrage and anger from legislative proponents of the program. Have you been following this at all, Emily?
Yeah, you know, this was a big issue last year during the election. A lot of people wanted to know about the scholarships, and I personally am for parents' choice. I think that you know your kid best, and when you want to put your kid into a certain type of educational plan, that's up to the parent to make those decisions. However, when it comes to the specific scholarship program that we're talking about, I do think that there's some standing here with those who are saying it's unconstitutional, and here's why. The scholarships can only be awarded to those who are not enrolled in the public school system. And the state's constitution says that they have to provide a public education system. So to give income tax funding to students not enrolled in that system, while the Constitution demands that they be that money specifically goes to that system.
Tax money.
Income tax. Do you see like where I think that there is some standing there? But what are your thoughts on it?
So it's really interesting about they passed this a couple years ago. It was a huge lift.
Huge.
It was between the governors. The governor was working very heavily on this. Representative Candace Perucci, the Speaker of the House, President Stuart Adams. There were a lot of moving pieces on this, and they tied this money for the scholarship. They're calling it Utah Fits All Scholarship. Opponents are saying this is just purely a voucher program, but they tied this bill to the vouchers, the scholarship money. they tied it to teacher pay raises, significant teacher pay raises. So if the bill dies, if you fight against the bill, if you're a teacher and you're fighting against the bill, then that's great. You've killed the bill, but you also killed all this additional money for teachers. And so it was very strategic the way that they did it.
That's just crafty legislators doing what legislators do best, which is tie a negative to a positive and say, well, if you kill the negative, you don't get your positive. I mean, that's classic.
Sure. And for a lot of representatives, it was two positives. I want teachers to have raises, and I also want those that are not enrolled to have an extra a few $1,000s to make sure my kid has math tutoring or theater or extra soccer, whatever that they're not offering because they're not in a public school. Representative Perucci, she posted a statement where she says, this was on social media, Utah law states that parents have the primary responsibility for the education of their children. This past year, thousands of families have had access to the Utah Fits All Scholarship Program to customize their child's learning experience. The decision made by Judge Scott is judicial activism. It is not the job of the judiciary to set policy on the bench and and infuse personal opinion and ideology into their decisions. I don't know how to read today. Maybe I could benefit from the Utah Fits All Scholarship. We are not done fighting this fight and will appeal this decision to the Utah Supreme Court. I'm committed to fighting for this program and for Utah families. She goes on to say that every child deserves a chance to learn in the environment that suits them best. Parents have the responsibility, etc. So what we're saying here is kind of we have kind of two different paths, two different avenues for change here. One is, well, I guess three. One is we could do nothing. The state could just say, hey, we lost this one. We got to go back and change it. Two, we can accept this loss and go back and change legislation, change how the income tax, where this money is coming from. Can we take it out of general fund? Does that change the relationship with the scholarship? Or two, we can actually appeal this to the Utah Supreme Court. And it sounds like from Representative Perucci, that's the way we're going.
Yeah, so I actually think that Representative Perucci did a great job giving the parameters that she was given to try and innovate and shift public education in the state of Utah. What is happening, and like I said in the first hour, I am a fan of disruption. I think that what comes from it is a better, more innovative outcome for everyone involved. So I understand what she's trying to do. She's trying to disrupt the system to get more competition and to make parents really in the driver's seat of education, and I support those things. But the intricacies of the program that they passed does have constitutional issues, and that is simply what this judge is calling upon and saying, hey, there are some issues of constitutionality here that we need to address. So frankly, what's going to happen over the next several years is you're going to see this continued pressure placed on public ed, which if public ed was smart and if the teachers union was smart, they would look at that pressure not as something to be frustrated by, but as something to embrace and to really take on to themselves. The best changes in public education are going to come when parents and teachers work together for their kid. And that's when this scholarship program is just one step in the right direction. No matter what happens with the constitutionality of it, we're not going to see the pressures for public ed to change go away. So we need to start and continue to innovate. But where this constitutionality thing is going to happen, the Supreme Court will weigh in. And we'll see where it goes from there.
And let's dig deeper into what you're saying, Emily. In her decision, Judge Scott said that because the program is a legislatively created one. See, I can't talk today. Publicly funded education program aimed at elementary and secondary education, it must satisfy the constitutional requirements applicable to the public education system set forth in the Utah Constitution. The legislature does not have plenary authority to circumvent these constitutional requirements by simply declining to designate the program as part of the public education system. So if you designate it as such, then it would very clearly, they kind of have to work that out.
Because so the call out there, if I may, is just that if you're going to take income tax that is specifically for public ed and divert it into a program that's supposedly not public ed, right then and there you have done something unconstitutional.
Does she give them a roadmap to say, call this part of the public education system, that anyone can be eligible for it if they're not enrolled? does that give them a roadmap, or is that kind of splitting hairs? They're going to need to go a totally different direction.
I think, again, back to the innovation, our public education system, that it needs to shift and evolve. And we need to stop doing this industrial revolutionized one-size-fits-all public ed outcome. However, we have guardrails within our Constitution that are for the benefit of the society as a whole. The legislature can't just run over that and claim, oh, well, we're going to do a non-public ed program and throw income tax, which is specifically in our Constitution for public ed, at that program.
And we talk, this is kind of a tangential here, but when you hear the legislature talking about you're going to get a tax cut this year, you're going to get an income tax cut, that is specifically education money. That goes directly into the education of your children. So whenever your tax rate is lowered in the state of Utah, it is coming specifically from education.
And there's a greater problem on that point. The way that our revenue streams are coming in for the state, we have and we are not going to be able to fund other things because those revenues that feed into those other things are slowing down while income tax was getting bigger. Right. There are bigger budgetary issues behind what you're saying, and I think that'd be a great topic to cover. But at the end of the day, the Constitution sets the guardrails for the governing of Utah, and we need to uphold to those. And if we don't like it, let's pass a constitutional amendment. And I know the legislature has tried to do that.
We've talked a lot about that on the show. Utah Attorney General Derek Brown, he said his office is actively reviewing the ruling and assessing the state's next steps. Governor Cox said that the state was also reviewing the ruling, and they are preparing to appeal. While we are disappointed in the court's decision of the Utah Fits All program, our commitment to Utah families and the right to make choices about their children's education remains unchanged, he said. But in a statement released after the decision, UEA President Renee Pinckney said Scott's ruling protects the promise of a public education. The UEA stood up to the unconstitutional private religious school vouchers, defended our public schools, and won, she said. Coming up next on Inside Sources, during the last legislative session, state lawmakers approved a bill to move and reinvest higher education funding. It caused some controversy, but now House Speaker Mike Schultz is talking about the potential benefits to mental health programming because of the shifts. More on that next.
No doubt about it, April weather can be totally unpredictable. What is absolutely predictable during the month of April is the great meal that awaits you at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It's the change of the season. It's time to start anew, and making your reservation at either Hotel Park City or downtown Salt Lake City for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse will start your spring off on the perfect note. I love the fact that when your meal is served at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, it's served sizzling on a 500-degree plate. So each and every bite throughout the meal will taste absolutely perfect. Don't forget to always save room for dessert, but those side dishes are amazing. Whether it's asparagus, whether it's au gratin potatoes, the list goes on. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse prepares and serves your meal with perfection. Make reservations now. Hotel Park City and downtown Salt Lake City.
Is your AC ready for summer? Don't wait for the heat to hit. Weak airflow? Warm air? Strange noises? These are warning signs your AC needs attention. Our skilled technicians offer AC repair services or replacements to keep your family cool all summer long. Don't sweat it. 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning has your back. Here to keep your home cool all summer. Visit onehour.com to schedule today. Financing options available.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for University Housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-783-8055. 800-783-8055. 800-783-8055.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
As a business owner looking to take your business to the next level, it's all about the right marketing. But what exactly is right for you? At KSL News Radio, we are ready to help you craft the perfect comprehensive strategy. Whether it's our powerful talent endorsements, engaging live interviews, creative production, live events, or our extensive digital platforms, we've got you covered with the right solution. Contact Stephanie Palmer today, spalmer@ksl.com, and let's grow your business together. Email spalmer@ksl.com.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Utah's strategic reinvestment bill for higher education aimed to cut inefficiencies, help with rising tuition costs, and loosen logjams in high industry demand majors like nursing and engineering. Now, House Speaker Mike Schultz says that shuffling of funding could also help the mental health crisis facing Utahns, but opening up access for future mental health practitioners. Looks like we both can't read today, Adam.
It's hard.
State Representative Karen Peterson sponsored this strategic reinvestment bill and knows it inside and out. She joins Inside Sources to share some light on how this funding shift could help with mental health and other medical professions. Representative Karen Peterson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now, can you start us off by telling us what's the lay of the land? What is going on? Tell us all about your bill.
Yeah, so House Bill 265 passed this legislative session. It's been signed by the governor. And so it kind of kicked off this process whereby all of our universities and colleges are looking at their programs, they're looking at their administrative costs, and they're deciding where they're going to shift that funding. So it's not a cut to our universities. Instead, it's an opportunity for them to shift funding from programs that maybe have lower enrollment or lower demand or lower outcomes for students, and then think about places where they need to reinvest, where they have capacity issues, maybe they have waiting lists, or maybe there's a state or industry need that they're not currently meeting, and they need to have a few more graduates in that area. So that's what the bill does, and our universities are in the middle of that process right now, making those determinations on what best fits their campus.
Have you heard from any universities of what they're kind of planning to do, what directions they're going to go?
Yes, definitely. So this bill was really collaborative. So we worked with all of our college presidents very closely with the system of higher ed. And so they've been very much in touch with us as they've gone through their processes. They've had some great committees on campus with faculty and students and, staff that are all weighing in. a number of them are combining colleges, so you might have been hearing about that a little bit. It's really a great way for them to actually save money to combine colleges. So it eliminates dean positions, it eliminates some administrative costs, and then allows them to reinvest those funds in classwork and coursework for students. So there's a lot of talk about that, those kinds of things going away.
Now, Representative, no good deed goes unpunished. So as you were working on this legislation, those that opposed it, what were some of the issues that you were having to reconcile with them?
Well, change is hard. Change is always hard, right? And so anytime you come to people and you say, we appreciate what you've been doing, but we got to make sure that, Utah taxpayers are investing millions, over $1 billion into higher education. At the same time, we have students who are also, paying tuition. And I've got 2 college kids right now who are working their tails off to be there. If we want to keep higher education relevant in our state, we got to keep it changing and adapting to the needs of our state. And anytime we talk about change, it's hard.
Yeah, so what are those needs of our state that you think this reinvestment bill will help address?
Yeah, so we have a lot of needs in our state around data analysis, cybersecurity, healthcare, both mental health healthcare and physical healthcare, logistics, manufacturing, things like life science, aerospace, education, social work. We have a lot of demands in those kind of fields here in our state.
So if we're shifting toward those programs, what are some of the programs you're seeing universities shift away from specifically?
Away from? So some of them are programs that have very, very low enrollment. So, for example, we have a program in geography at one of our institutions that has 1 or 2 students in it. Now, I have to say, I don't want to be too premature because they're all kind of in the middle of their process right now. But a lot of them are looking at how industry demands have changed and then ensuring that they still align with the market. So a lot of things that are small, maybe it's not a whole bachelor's degree, but maybe it's an emphasis they created at one point that you could get along with your bachelor's degree that they're now going to eliminate the emphasis because it just really wasn't meeting a student need or industry need.
So when talking with industry, was there any concern that the things that you would be cutting or consolidating were going to have negative impacts on students who are graduating without some of those certificates?
We really, all of the industry people that came were very supportive of the bill. Our industry leaders are really connected with our institutions, and most institution programs have a committee, of local industry that they work with as they set the curriculum, as they set the skills and technical applications that they teach students. So our universities are pretty in touch with their industry committees, and so really, business and industry were excited about this because they would prefer students to come out of colleges and universities ready to go on day one and not have to retrain.
Okay, this may seem like an insensitive question, but from the university presidents that I know, I'm thinking of Weber State, the University of Utah, President Randall, President Mortensen, just fantastic people, and most of these universities have presidents with a real strategic vision. And when they're hired by the Utah, they have to go through a rigorous process and say, here are my plans for the university. So they go through this rigorous process. And then when they get there, I kind of feel like it's faculty and staff that holds them back because, like you said, change is really hard. Are you seeing that? Does this bill give the presidents of our universities a little more leverage into changing to meet growing needs?
I love that question, Adam. 2 things I want to mention. The first is last year I ran legislation that became that I wanted to clarify what the role of a president was at an institution and what responsibilities.
I loved this bill, by the way. It was fantastic.
Yes, because when you hire a president, they end up with a lot of bosses, right? They've got the Board of Higher Ed, at the state level. They've got their trustees. They've got their faculty. They've got their staff. They've got legislators. They've got a lot of people that they are reporting to, in their community. And so we wanted to be really clear about what the role of the president was, because also then we can hold those presidents accountable for the responsibilities that are theirs. So that was one of the really important things that we did. last year. And so that does give the presidents an opportunity. And like I said, this bill was incredibly collaborative. We have incredible leaders on our campuses. We have good presidents in our state who are wanting to lean in. They also, when they come into these positions, they inherit everything that has happened before them. And so giving them an opportunity to really meet with their campus community. At Weber State, they've set up a really active committee that's doing this work with them. And it's not happening, in a vacuum. They're having a really active committee that's taking public comments and all of that as they move forward, and really having a good idea of, as a community and campus, how they can move forward. And some of the best ideas have come from faculty and students on campuses who have said, I think that maybe we should do things a little different. So I'm excited about that.
Okay, we want to finish off here. I'm going to play a clip from Speaker Schultz, and then I want to get your reaction to it, and we'll end there. So speaking during a legislative audit subcommittee last week, Speaker Schultz talked a bit about how Utah's strategic investment for higher education bill would help with mental health staffing.
We've known for several years now. In fact, Representative Moss worked on a bill a couple of years ago that did exactly what you talked about, and reduce the requirements for licensure and to be able to practice and get people into the field. We know that that's been a huge problem. We did a few things, passed a few pieces of legislation we thought was a really good idea, and putting counselors in all of the schools out there, right? Well, shortly after we realized, after we passed that bill, it was great. We moved a lot of counselors into the schools, but at what cost? They left the county health departments, and we just moved and then left a hole inside the other areas. And so we need to increase the workload or the workforce in that area. Higher education is going through a realignment right now and focusing on growing some programs, with some of the restructuring that we passed last session. Behavioral health is probably one of the biggest holes out there in our economy right now and in the workforce.
Representative Peterson, last 10 seconds, your reaction to that clip from Speaker Schultz.
Love it. Let's do it. That's my reaction.
Hey, I love it. All right, perfect. The best guest, ending on time, State Representative Karen Peterson. Thanks so much for joining. Next on Inside Sources, new polling shows that Utahns continue to support Governor Cox and the state legislature, but not as strongly as in the past. Let's dig into the numbers next.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. Our top local story this hour, Governor Cox is looking to improve wildfire preparedness throughout the state. He signed an executive order today calling for the formation of a new working group on wildfire prevention. This group's going to ID the highest risk areas, improve coordination across jurisdictions, and then, rather quickly, submit a report with recommendations to the governor 5 weeks from now, June 1st. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Closing arguments are underway in Arizona in the case of Lori Vallow Daybell.
Defense attorneys called over a dozen witnesses in their attempt to show that Lori Vallow Daybell conspired with her late brother to kill her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Acting as her own attorney, Lori Vallow Daybell was expected to call witnesses and present evidence, but on Monday she told the judge,
"The defense also rests, Your Honor."
She rested her own case without calling a single witness. No matter what the jury decides, she's already serving multiple life terms in Idaho for killing her two children and conspiring to kill her fifth husband's previous wife. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the market was off about 2.5%. The Dow losing 971 points today. And coming up, warmer weather is ahead. Warmer weather right through the rest of the week. The KSL forecast next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
It all started with a commitment to comfort. Gillette Heating and Air is proud to be Utah County's go-to team for expert HVAC and plumbing solutions. Need a repair, upgrade, or seasonal tune-up? Don't let cost hold you back. With 0% financing available, it's easy to get the work done now and pay later. Plus, save $100 on any repair over $500 and keep your system running strong with a professional tune-up before the heat hits. Visit GilletteHVAC.com or call 385-GET-COOL to book today. Homegrown service pros, financing made simple, comfort made easy.
It's back for a limited time. Mr. Mac's Buy One, Get One for 100 suit sale. With suits starting at $299 in a variety of colors and patterns. You're sure to find the perfect suit. Mr. Mac Buy One, Get One for 100 suit sale is an unbeatable value for every man and every occasion. Mr. Mac ensures a perfect fit with free in-house alterations at all 9 locations. Buy one, get one for $100 suit sale. Mr. Mac, serving Utah for nearly 60 years.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for autopay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Are you looking to find more fairways, hit more greens, and lower your scores? Then a custom golf club fitting from a Shields certified master fitter is your answer. Learning from the world's top fitters at Titleist Performance Institute, Callaway Performance Center, and the Ping Proving Grounds, we're equipped to fit you with the right clubs to make your game more consistent. Go to shields.com/expert fitting to schedule a custom fitting today.
Dave and Dujanovic.
What our listeners need to know is what's going on behind the scenes. We hold weekly meetings on how to do our jobs as talk show hosts, as journalists, better than we did them yesterday.
There's some very conservative voices. There's some very liberal voices. But there is space for both. And we're not at each other's throats. We're not yelling at each other. We're having a discussion.
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Cleanup continues of an accident northbound I-15 in Murray after 4500 south. All vehicles are over to the left shoulder. Also, the final cleanup of a Surface Street crash, 3700 west at 5th south. And of course, you can text us traffic tips anytime on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line at 57500. Traffic brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, home of 3.99% for 6 years on the Santa Fe, Tucson, or Elantra. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, clouds mix in tomorrow with a high of 68. You can expect the low to mid-70s for the rest of the work week. Right now, 62 degrees. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Utahns continue to support Governor Cox in the state legislature. That's according to new polling from the Deseret News. But the overall support numbers are dropping, a potential indicator of trouble. The group of voters who seem to be waning in their support are more Democratic-leaning individuals. How much of an effect could that actually have on Utah politics? Adam, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I kind of think this is interesting because there's been a couple of things that have happened that have made that shift take place. We were talking about it during the break, and we both have different opinions on this of like what the catalyst is, but I think the real answer is together. These issues are kind of translating into diminishing Democratic support. For example, my biggest thing with the governor's numbers taking a slight decline is Donald Trump. I hate to blame everything on him, but
you're back at it again.
There was last year during the election. You'll kind of remember this. Is Governor Cox typically did not like Donald Trump. They have different ways of operating. They are very different politically, very different political beliefs. I think Governor Cox is a little more conservative, like traditional Republican, and the president has turned things on its head, been very pro-union, so that's hard for Governor Cox, and that's hard for a lot of Republicans to kind of change their philosophies. But what happened was he has had this camp that was very upset with him, those that like supported Phil Lyman as an independent. So Phil Lyman did not run as a Republican in the general election. He ran as an independent. But his group was far-right Republicans that were fed up with Governor Cox. So he has lost. Those people will not support Governor Cox again. But then you had people that were moderate Republicans as well as a lot of Democrats who were in favor of Governor Cox taking a strong stand against Donald Trump. So even though he doesn't necessarily do what I like, I know he's his own guy, and I trust him. I know Democrats not going to win, but I support Governor Cox because he's the best outcome that we had. Well, then the assassination attempt happens, and where the president got the bullet grazed his ear. We remember the famous pictures and him getting shoved into the SUV and the limousines, and that something changed in Governor Cox after that event, and he penned this what turned out to be a very public letter. Saying, hey, we're all on the same team now. I think you're going to win. I'm not going to vote for Kamala. It's going to be you. We have to find a different way to govern. I'm backing you. I'm endorsing you. That was a big shock,
honestly,
to a lot of people.
Super shocking. I didn't necessarily have the same emotional reaction. Of course, like I would never want the assassination of anyone, especially a former United States president. But it shocked me to my core when I saw Spencer Cox come out in support of Donald Trump. It was so off-brand, to your point. I mean, it just doesn't align, and so it was interesting to see.
So that's from my perspective, the whole Donald Trump shift of endorsing the president. And again, he made some great points where he said, hey, look, I'm going to be a Republican governor for the next 4 years. He's going to be the president for the next 4 years. If I want to get anything done, I have to support this guy because that's just how it works in Washington, D.C. And there's been a lot of opportunities for him to use that relationship and show that. But you had a different of opinion that it wasn't the Trump stuff, it was something else.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right to an extent with the Trump stuff for sure. But the thing that immediately came to my mind is there's been several bills targeted towards the transgender community at the state legislature that Spencer Cox has been on some sides and then on the other side of. So several years ago, he vetoed the transgender playing sports bill. And that, I think, is what started drumming up a lot of Democratic support for him. In the past several years, he's signed into law other bills that, such as, the bill where you can't have a transgender student sharing a dorm room of someone of the opposite biological sex, things like that. And he signed those. And so I think what you're seeing is that these Democrats and moderates who thought that Cox was going to shine on an issue, actually he isn't where they thought he was on that issue, and so they're losing support for him on that. And I think that, along with the Trump stuff, makes a sense why he's losing support.
Let's put both of those together. I think that's what we're seeing here. Let's just talk about the raw numbers here. So 800 voters were surveyed. 52% said they approve of the job Cox is doing as governor of Utah. 36% said that they disapprove. 12% said that they don't know. 2 years earlier, the Deseret News Hinckley Institute of Politics poll conducted by HarrisX found that 64% of Utah voters approved of Cox's performance, 30% disapproved, and 6% didn't know. So we've dropped about 12 points, which is a significant drop. But if you're looking at the raw numbers, you still have the somewhat approve and strongly approve at 52%. You're doing just fine.
We live in Utah, where it's a very strong red state. Yes, I like to describe the Republican Party on a spectrum of pink to burgundy. There's a lot of different colors along that spectrum that sit in that red family. Although sometimes you wouldn't think we're a family by any means. We fight so much amongst ourselves.
Are dysfunctional.
Yes. But I definitely think that Governor Cox is going to, come out of his power with a lot of approval. And there's a lot to be proud of. We have almost seen 2 decades of economic prosperity in this state like none else in the nation. And that's something to be really proud of. Both the legislature and the governor should be proud of that.
Jason Perry, who serves as the director of the Hinckley Institute of Politics and is vice president up at the University of Utah, he also previously served as chief of staff under former Governor Gary Herbert. He attributed this shift. We were kind of on the same page, I think, with Jason Perry, which is always good because Jason knows his stuff, and so it's good we're kind of.
So we're not crazy.
We're not crazy at all. So he attributed the shift in perception toward Cox among liberal Utahns to two things: Cox's surprise endorsement of Trump and his association with culture war bills passed by the legislature. And we saw that with the critics are calling it the banning transgender flags bill. That's not what it was.
Correct.
But that was seen as another culture war bill. And when he was asked about it, it wasn't like this hard decision for him. He was like, yeah, I'm going to sign this. Sure. Like it wasn't even a big issue for him. So it wasn't this agonizing, will he or won't he, that we saw with the transgender bill years ago. And keep in mind, this transgender bill, that was vetoed. The veto was overridden in a special session, and they quickly found out a solution that trumped that bill.
Dare you say Trump?
I can't say Trump. So they worked out a solution to this bill, and both sides were in agreement, the legislature and the governor, and that became the law of the land.
But unfortunately, Cox is always going to be associated to that veto,
Right.
and that's where a lot of that deep burgundy red Republican right now in the state of Utah takes issue with Cox, and he will never win those people over again. I mean, I've interacted with those people. They happen to be delegates of the Republican caucus convention system, and a lot of them show up there and they despise the man. And so I don't think he'll be able to ever get away from that. There will be nothing he can do that will bring those burgundy Republicans back to him. But he's a governor of all Utahns, and they're Republicans and Democrats, independents, unaffiliateds, that he has to govern and lead us into the next several years.
And we saw that a majority of Utahns actually agree that he's doing okay. And in fact, Robert Carroll, the governor's spokesman, said in a statement, "It's encouraging to see that a majority of Utahns share the governor's vision to keep Utah the best place to live, work, and raise a family. But his focus remains where it's always been, on solving the real challenges that matter most to the people of Utah."
And in our final segment on today's Inside Sources, how could Utah's role in the technology industry better position the United States in the global tech race against China? Stay tuned for that discussion.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. In October of 1985, a woman named Cherie Warren left work at a busy Salt Lake City office
to meet her estranged husband at a downtown auto dealership.
She never made it home. Cherie's car surfaced weeks later in Las Vegas.
In the parking lot of a hotel casino.
No one knows how it got there.
Strange. It was strange.
Both Cherie's estranged husband and her boyfriend raised suspicion for investigators.
I kind of thought that he might have done something.
But no arrests were ever made. In Cold Season 3, we dig into double lives, make new connections in the case, and examine the difficulty raised by reasonable doubt.
We want answers just as much as anyone else.
They have creeps like that now too, so nothing's changed.
That's the new Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Now available anywhere you get your podcasts.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
The KSL News Radio movie show comes to My Hearing Centers Friday from 10 to 1. But first, discover what My Hearing Centers can do for you. My Hearing Centers uses advanced technology to diagnose and treat hearing loss. These comprehensive evaluations determine the best treatment options. Then enjoy lifetime support with regular check-ins, cleaning, and maintenance. Call My Hearing Centers at 801-701-1629. 801-701-1629 for more details. My Hearing Centers has offices from Ogden to St. George.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Hi, Grandma. Can Nina come over for dinner?
Sure. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma!
If anyone ever does, I want you to say, no, I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
I promise, Grandma.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
While China continues to ramp up and develop its own AI and technology, the United States stands in a unique position that could result in either technological growth or collapse. Sure, it'll take strong federal action to ensure growth, but as a new opinion piece in the Deseret News points out, it'll also take action from each individual state. Utah is in a good position for exactly this kind of thing. Joining Inside Sources to share more about his opinion piece is Matt Waldrop, managing partner at Dauntless Capital Partners and the former chief of staff to Senator Mitt Romney. A friend of the show, Matt Waldrop, thanks so much for joining us.
You're very welcome, Adam. Glad to be on.
Okay, so give us the blueprint. Talk to us about what your op-ed is about and how can Utah lead the charge?
Well, I think part of the blueprint is just to watch what's happening in Utah. You know, I don't always love to just be a cheerleader of your home state because it's your home state. But, the federal government has a role to play with technology and growth, in particular the topic du jour, which is AI. And if we look at the approach that Utah is taking, I just hope that the folks out in Washington, D.C., where, as you know, I spend a lot of time following Utah's I guess the way Utah thinks about things, which is right to have the appropriate balance between giving entrepreneurs some room to run and some thoughtful regulation.
Okay, so thoughtful regulation, that's kind of the key here, because one of our biggest technological foes is China, and they're, one, rapidly advancing, but also, two, stealing a lot of the United States IP. So how do you do some thoughtful regulation? How do you curb and what can Utah do to curb Chinese influence in technology?
Well, what Utah can do, let's back up just a little bit, Adam. So China, you're right. They're a huge threat, right? They're a threat not only in the federal level, they're a threat at the state level. It's been well documented that, and I know this sounds sensational, but we've seen that Utah is actually, or Chinese authoritarian government has infiltrated Utah. It's happened. We've seen it. It's been well documented. And so we need to be cognizant of that. And this is why all the other things that play in our politics actually matter in this regard, because we as a country also need to go about curbing the influence of China and the bad practices that China partakes in together with our allies. This is why allies matter. This is why the U.S. going at it alone against China is not going to be as helpful as us doing it together with our allies.
And Matt, when you say that, who exactly is going to do this, and how would someone from Utah go and lead the way across the nation? What does that look like?
So obviously this starts with our entrepreneurs, right? That's giving all of our folks that are working in this space, and I'll just use AI because it's easy to sort of pin down. We want to encourage them. We want to make sure that they're operating in an environment where there is less fear that they're going to have their technology stolen from China or other bad actors. There is also, working to make sure that we are not working collaboratively to make sure that the government is actually just promoting the good practices rather than promoting the, I'll call it, digital authoritarianism of China, right? What does China do with AI, right? They're expanding censorship and control. They actually use the term digital authoritarianism versus what does the United States do? What does Utah stand for? A totally different path, right? One that protects freedom, promotes prosperity, treats AI as a force for good. I mean, think about all the medical breakthroughs and all of the help with our personal lives and businesses that AI can bring in. I'll give one other point here, and I'll give a very brief, parallel, which another topic that's in the news right now is name, image, likeness in sports, right? NIL. And we see how some people are saying it's getting out of hand with college athletes being paid. Well, this was a hot topic in Congress a few years back, and all of the proponents of name, image, likeness payments being made were making the rounds across Capitol Hill in D.C. and saying, we need this to happen, we need this to happen. I was at the time working as Senator Romney's chief of staff, and he wanted to call in each of these players and talk to them as well. And when they came into his office, they were expecting to get lectured by him like they were getting lectured by everyone else on how it should be done. His advice to them and to the NCAA at the time was, figure this out yourself now before we, Congress, act. You don't want us regulating you. You don't want us figuring out the way this needs to go. We'll screw it up massively. You need to act now, and you need to do it before Congress gets in the way. And I take a similar approach and similar line of thinking, actually, with regards to AI and how it's regulated. Let the industries themselves, let the companies in Utah, let the founders in Utah of companies that touch technology broadly, figure out ways that the regulation can be smart before government has to get involved. I'm for light touch in government.
Okay, so in our last minute or two here, you wrote, the current chaos in our economy has made it even more critical for our Utah federal delegation to continue to be laser focused on avoiding policies that undermine American innovation. Such policies will only weaken economic growth, the job market, small businesses, and U.S. competitiveness. As Americans, we cannot consent to let our adversaries win in this battle. And in this instance, Utah can play a pivotal role in our success as a country. Is our federal delegation doing enough? With our current chaos in our economy, is our federal delegation doing enough?
They need to be very, very careful, right? We need to remember this is a big world, and it's not just America, right? And as talks of sort of antitrust enforcement occur in Washington, D.C., I really plead with our federal delegation to be thoughtful about how we talk about this. Because think about this. Does China, does India, do countries like that really care about breaking up monopolies? No. They want their companies born out of those countries. The Chinese companies, they want them to be as big and powerful so that they can dominate the global economy as much as possible. So why are we breaking up? Why are we really thinking about making sure that these various companies across the United States don't have too much power when they're competing against these absolutely massive companies from other countries where the government is saying, no, grow as big and as powerful globally as you can? And so that's where I really want to encourage the federal delegation. Be very wise in how we think about regulating these businesses and be thoughtful and don't come down on the little innovators. Allow the little innovators to grow and give them all the sunshine and rain that we can.
Is that happening right now in the last few seconds? Is that happening right now? Is the federal government or the state, are they coming down on the little innovators?
Well, we saw it a lot during the last administration. The Biden administration was absolutely terrible, and you can talk to Silicon Valley and Silicon Slopes alike. They were really tough. And this administration hasn't really gone one way or the other yet. And I think we've learned that we don't know which way to guess they're going to go. And so I encourage our federal delegation to step in, use the relationships they have. I mean, Mike Lee's relationship with the president is ostensibly strong. Use that leverage then to make sure that we are good in the way we deal with entrepreneurs and innovators.
That was Matt Waldrop, managing partner at Dauntless Capital Partners and the former chief of staff to Senator Mitt Romney. Matt, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
You're welcome, Adam. Take
Okay.
care.
I think the state has done a pretty good job, Emily, of handling some of these issues. What Matt said really kind of struck home with me because the legislature was having to deal with AI. ChatGPT had just come online. Everyone started to use it. It was taking up a ton of power. The state had to deal with it in such a way where they were concerned that if they started to regulate it, that they would kill it. They would kill innovation. So they created an office of artificial intelligence under Department of Commerce, and they hired someone who is an expert that could actually meet with AI companies and then finally give guidance to the legislature so they wouldn't have to do it on their own, which I think was an excellent idea. Matt Waldrop hit a lot of those points. We're grateful to him and grateful to all of you for listening to Inside Sources. Join Rusty Cannon and Greg Skordas tomorrow for more political discussion and analysis. Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News is up next. We hope y'all have a great day.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.